A female CEO mocked a single dad and took his VIP seat. Moments later, everyone was stunned. The single father had barely lowered himself into the VIP seat when the woman in the designer suit stopped in front of him, looked at his worn jacket, his old travel bag, and the little boy sleeping against his shoulder, and laughed. She told him that people like him did not belong in first class, then took the boarding pass from his trembling hand and dropped it onto his lap as if it meant nothing. What she did not know was that, within minutes, the entire cabin would learn who that exhausted father really was, and why the little boy beside him was the most important passenger on the plane. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change a person's life, that everyone deserves a second chance, and that we should never judge someone by their clothes or circumstances, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need a reminder that compassion still matters. Daniel had spent the last 5 years learning how to be both father and mother to his 8-year-old son, Noah. After losing his wife to an illness, he had put his own dreams aside and built his life around one simple promise: Noah would never feel alone. Daniel worked long hours, fixed machines at a small manufacturing company, cooked simple dinners after exhausting shifts, helped with homework, and still found the energy to smile when his son needed encouragement. He was not wealthy. His shoes were old, his jacket had been repaired twice, and his suitcase had a broken wheel that squeaked whenever he pulled it. But that morning, he had been given something he never expected. His company had selected him to represent them at an important international business meeting, and because of a last-minute airline upgrade, he and Noah had been placed in the VIP cabin. Daniel kept checking the boarding pass because he could hardly believe it. Noah, however, was not excited about the luxury seats or expensive meals. He was nervous about flying. Daniel had promised him that they would sit together, look out the window, and count the clouds. When they reached their seats, Noah curled up beside his father and finally fell asleep. That was when Victoria Sterling arrived. She was a powerful CEO known for her sharp business instincts, expensive clothes, and impatient personality. She looked at Daniel as though he were an inconvenience blocking her path. When the flight attendant politely explained that Daniel's seat was assigned to him, Victoria became irritated. She insisted there must have been a mistake. She glanced at his inexpensive clothes and quietly mocked him, saying the airline must have confused him with someone else. Daniel tried to explain, but he did not want to wake Noah or create a scene. He simply handed over his boarding pass. Victoria saw the seat number, smiled coldly, and told him that she was used to getting what she paid for. Before Daniel could respond, she took the seat. Daniel stood there holding Noah, embarrassed as several passengers watched. His face burned, but he swallowed his pride. He did not want his son waking up to see his father humiliated. Instead, he carried Noah to another seat and carefully tucked a blanket around him. A flight attendant apologized and promised to resolve the situation, but Daniel quietly said it was fine. He had spent years choosing peace over pride because Noah was always watching. A few minutes later, the captain walked through the cabin with 2 senior airline executives. His expression was unusually serious. He stopped beside Daniel and asked if he was Mr. Daniel Carter. Daniel nodded, confused. The captain then turned toward Victoria and explained that Daniel was not simply a passenger attending a business meeting. He was the engineer whose emergency safety design had prevented a major aviation disaster months earlier. The airline had personally arranged his VIP upgrade because its leadership wanted to thank him for his contribution. The cabin fell silent. Victoria's confident expression disappeared. But the captain was not finished. He explained that Daniel had refused a large personal reward at the time because he had asked the company to use the money to create a scholarship program for children who had lost a parent. Daniel had never told anyone about it. He had simply continued working, raising Noah, and trying to give other children the opportunities his own son deserved. The CEO who had judged him by his jacket suddenly realized she had mistaken humility for weakness. Victoria slowly stood from the seat. For the first time, there was no arrogance in her face. She apologized, not because everyone was watching, but because she finally understood the damage her words had caused. She offered Daniel the seat back, but Daniel looked at Noah, who had just opened his eyes, and smiled. He said that the seat was never the important thing. What mattered was remembering that everyone you meet may be carrying a story you know nothing about. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She admitted that she had become so obsessed with success that she had forgotten how easily people could be hurt by a careless word. Then something unexpected happened. Victoria asked Daniel if she could speak privately with him after landing. She wanted to help expand the scholarship program he had created. Months later, her company became one of its largest supporters. Daniel never became obsessed with money or status. He simply kept doing what he had always done, showing Noah that character was worth more than appearances. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness. Sometimes one small act of compassion can remind a person that the world has not forgotten them. And before the story ends, I want you to leave one special comment: kindness sees beyond appearances. Write those words if you believe every person deserves dignity, no matter what they wear, what they earn, or where they come from. As the plane disappeared into the clouds, Noah reached for his father's hand and whispered that he was proud of him. Daniel squeezed his son's fingers and looked out the window. He had lost his wife, struggled through years of hardship, and been judged by a stranger, but none of that mattered now. Because the greatest seat in the world was never the one at the front of the plane. It was the place in someone's heart where you are remembered for how you treated others. And that day, an entire cabin learned a lesson that money could never buy: never mistake a humble appearance for a small life, because sometimes the quietest person in the room is carrying the biggest story.